All right, let's talk UNC Trojans football. Regular season is almost here. A lot of anticipation up there in Los Angeles in terms of what this team is going to look like in the new Big Ten environment. And we've got a great update for you Trojans fans as the regular season approaches. I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, so USC, obviously, it's been kind of a rocky offseason, a lot of great additions, had a few losses in terms of transfers and recruits and things like that. But overall, there's a decent amount of momentum right now as USC transfers to the Big Ten. Or if you would believe one college football legend, there's actually a lot of momentum right now. I think it's a great sign for USC. Let's pull up this latest report, then we'll talk about it more on the other side. This is courtesy of 24/7 Sports. College football legend and former Alabama head coach Nick Saban gave the Trojans some loving during his College Game Day debut on Saturday, telling the college football world that number 23, wow, that seems low, USC could make noise in the conference. I really think USC, who people are kind of disrespecting now, Lincoln Riley is always going to have a good offense. I don't care who's the quarterback. I don't care who the quarterback is, excuse me. He'll make it work. But they have this new defensive coordinator, D'Anton Lynn, who turned over UCLA around a year ago. If they can play better defense, they're going to challenge some of these teams in the Big Ten. And look, I know that's a very simplistic way to view at it, but Nick Saban, straight shooter, honest guy, as we obviously know from his tenure at Alabama, I think he's 100% correct, right? Lincoln Riley has been an offensive wizard his entire career. If Lynn, their new defensive coordinator, can just get some improvement on defense, this is a team that's better just on paper than 2/3 of the Big Ten already. Better defensive coaching, and they could really vault to the top of this new conference. Really exciting update here for the Trojans. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. But first, USC fans, in the comment section below. Obviously, regular season just around the corner. Now's your last chance. Give us your final prediction for the Trojans 2024 record. Let us know in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on this latest USC news?
Yeah, Nick, I think it's really astute of Saban, of course. Well, Nick Saban, one of the best defensive minds in all of college football. I think this guy knows what he's talking about. But when you talk about this Trojans team, it's really interesting because, like you said, there has been some back and forth. It's kind of been a little bit tough offseason as far as guys committing, decommitting, coming, leaving. They've had some turmoil there. But that's not the most important part of what makes a defense. And I think people forget what the Trojans did earlier at the beginning of this offseason. They had a complete defensive coaching staff haul. This is D'Anton Lynn, former UCLA coordinator, really turn around that team when he was there. You have Matt Ince, a linebacker coach, who was over at North Dakota State, and they had really great defenses there. You have Doug Belk, secondary coach, coming from Houston. There's been some players coming in out there. And finally, the guy that I think is probably one of the best, Eric Henderson, a guy that was a defensive line coach for the Los Angeles Rams, especially when they went to the Super Bowl. This guy knows exactly what he's doing. So I think whether or not, I think they probably still have plenty of talent on the defense. I think these coaches are going to make the biggest impact. And I think a guy like Nick Saban realizes that a lot of the things that matter in college football are your ability to coach and have a good scheme. I think the players are pretty important but on defense, I think your scheme and coaching and ability to develop players is just as important. And I think these guys, when they are in charge, it's going to be a big difference. I think, like you said, people are sleeping on Southern Cal. Like you said, 23 seems pretty low. This is a team that I think, could be in the upper echelon of teams in college football realm. I'm thinking like at least a team that makes that top 10, top 12. This is a potential college football playoff team. If this defense can turn around, we all know the offense is going to be good, but I think with these additions in the, corroborating statement from head coach Nick Saban, this defense could be something special this year.
Yeah, and if there's anyone who knows about defensive turnarounds, it's Nick Saban due to coaching, right? The year before Nick Saban took over at Alabama, the Crimson Tide gave up 250 points over that season. 2 years later, that number was down to 200. The year after that, it was down to $160, right? So Nick Saban knows how important coaching is in terms of turning around the defense. And I think he recognizes that in Lynn. And if you look at the entire Pac-12 standings and you look at USC defensively, it was ugly last season. They surrendered 440 yards per game. Only Colorado and Stanford surrendered more, right? Those are two teams in the Cardinal and the Buffs that are not exactly known for playing really any defense whatsoever. And those are the only two teams that performed better than the Trojans last year. So that was obviously a debacle. But again, you look at Lynn's UCLA squad, they were the best team in terms of defensive yards per game. the UCLA Bruins, they were the only team in the Pac-12 that surrendered fewer than 300 yards per game on average. So again, Lynn coming in, he doesn't even have to be a miracle worker day one. If he just takes that terrible USC defense in terms of statistically, not on paper, but just in terms of execution, and just makes it mediocre this first year, that's a huge leap. That's a massive leap. And when you compare with Lincoln Riley's offensive genius, I think there's a lot of teams in the Big Ten that won't know how to handle Lincoln Riley, to be totally honest, right? When he came into Oklahoma, when he took over the Sooners, they were obviously a very talented, high-flying team. There was a lot of people that were wondering, okay, will there be a drop-off? Will there be, his ability to run his specific twist on the Sooners offense there? Will there be a dip? There probably will be, new guy taking over the reins. There wasn't. Oklahoma got even better offensively. I think we're going to see that with USC transferring to the Big Ten, because Big Ten offenses won't know how to handle it. It's a different style in terms of how teams like to play defensively in the Big Ten. And I think it'll be a culture shock to a lot of these programs. And I think that will help the offense for the USC Trojans. And I think Lynn's going to be the guy to at least give incremental improvement. They go from terrible to average. Offense is still good. They win 10, 11 games, right? I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility. I understand there's a lot of negativity right now around USC, probably just because, hey, you lost Caleb Williams to the National Football League, had some transfers and recruits not go your way, question marks at quarterback. A lot of bad vibes right now, it seems, from the outside. But when you really dig into it and actually look at this team, they're a lot better than people think. And I think they're going to have a pretty good season.